Alright, so part two. The wards. Pink wards are removed. Control wards reveal camouflage but not invisibility, so if you drop it in a Cali pool, it's not going to show anything. Disables nearby wards. I think it might have been a bug, but basically what happens is you drop this ward in a bush that the enemy team has a ward, and it'll show that their ward, the site has like an X through it so that they're not getting vision from it, similar to when it's disabled by a sweeper. I was getting my wards disabled and I could still see into the bush and see what was going on. So I'm wondering if that was a bug or whatnot, but it's apparently supposed to make it so not only does it reveal those wards, but it also disables them. So you're doing Baron, drop a control ward in the Baron pit, people ward over, but they still can't see because your control ward. So that'll change the buff stealing and buff control a lot. You can. They only have 4 health, not 5. You can hold 3 in your inventory, only 1 on the map like pink wards, but they're stacking 3s rather than 2s, which is nice. Wards disabled by control. Wards still grant vision of their attackers while being killed. And the situation I was talking about wasn't anything to do with that. It was just the ward was still giving vision. It was weird. So yeah, pink wards are gone. Wards now give more experience on kill. Sightstone and totem wards give 40 instead of 30. Control wards give 40, and the blue wards from the trinket give 20. And you can no longer lifesteal off killing a ward or proc Omnivap effects. Armor pen, flat armor pen, this is another big change, is no more. Armor pen and flat armor pen still exists, but as a stat on items and runes and masteries. It's now called lethality. Basically, you get a number of lethality, you get 40% of that is flat armor pen, and you get 60% of it as scaling armor pen that scales linearly with the enemy level, not your own level. So 10 lethality, for instance, will grant this 4 armor pen. As it says right here, up front, and 0.33 flat armor pen per champion level, capping at the full 10 once enemies are 18. So I think let's go down here. So you can see here, the mastery has been changed to the lethality. Armor pen runes and hybrid pen runes still have magic pen on the hybrid pen, but they have lethality there. It'll explain it down here. Let's see. The serrated Dirk, 15 lethality. So it breaks even at level 8. So if your opponent is level 8 or higher, you'll have more armor pen than you would have on the old Dirk. As far as my understanding of this description here. Basically, it's meant to be armor pen that works better later on in the game than it does right now, but isn't as strong and snowbally early. One thing that's nice about this, I will note, is if you're playing a champion that wants that flat armor pen, but wants other items as well, like say like a Tymant or something, depending on what champion you're playing, you're not going to feel like you're missing an opportunity to snowball by missing out on that flat armor pen really, really early, because you can get the Dirk at like level 10 or 9, and it will still give you more bonuses than flat armor pen would have at that level before. And if you get it really early because you want to get it above all else, it's not going to be as strong. So there's not much more of a trade-off. Or there is a better trade-off. You're like, okay, well, I don't need this early. I can get an item like a Tiamat or something. I never know how to pronounce that, so I just pronounce it differently every time. One other thing about the Dirk as well, it lost its extra damage on killing a unit. Your next basic attack ability deals on-hit bonus damage. Most people didn't even really ever realize that existed or talk about it. It gives you 20 movement speed while out of combat. So you just gain 20 movement speed out of combat, which will help assassins roam. I like that change. This item is cool. It is a Poacher's Dirk. It is a standalone item that the only way to make it into a different item, it transforms into a serrated Dirk. It costs 750 rather than the 1100, so it's 350 cheaper. It gives you 15 AD rather than the 25. Doesn't give you any armor pen. It does give you the movement speed while out of combat, so all it's missing is the 10 AD and the armor pen. It is cheaper. After poaching 3 unique camps from the enemy jungle, 60-second cooldown, transforms into a serrated Dirk. So you kill a camp, there is a 60-second cooldown before you can poach the next one, so you can't just do it all on one trip. but it's a way to save. You get stats to help you in lane, and it is a way to save you 350 gold. And since it has the lethality on it rather than the armor pen, not getting it early and getting it like a couple levels later doesn't feel that bad. New item here, Edge of Night. Gives you lethality, magic resist, attack damage. You can kind of see what it builds out of here. The total price 3100. Unique passive, 20 movement speed out of combat, which is part of the Dirk. And the active is you channel for 1.5 seconds to grant a spell shield that blocks the next enemy ability and lasts for 10 seconds. It's a 45-second cooldown on the channel. You can move while channeling, but taking damage will break the channel. So you'll have to have it planned out. You can't just like engage in a fight, start channeling in the middle of the fight, because if you take damage, it's going to cancel your channel and kind of be useless. So you have to like plan it to go in, but it does last for 10 seconds. It's a 10-second temporary Banshee's Veil that you can turn on when you want to engage. So rather than a Banshee's Veil, you have it, and then right before you engage, you get hit by an Ezreal Q and your Banshee's is gone, and the only way to get it back up is to not take damage for a really ridiculous amount of time. This does that for you. It's an on-demand Banshees, lasts for 10 seconds, so you just have to engage with that 10 seconds. It'll still be popped by anything. You can't use it on whatever you want, so the Merc, Skim, and Quicksilver items will still have a lot of. I just looked over at my program and I thought I wasn't recording. I was like, no, but I am. It will still have their own uses, but this will have some interesting uses as well for that. And it gives you magic resistance, armor pen, attack damage. Duskblade has been changed. Less AD, no longer has movement speed, 5% movement speed, but it gives you movement speed out of combat because of the Dirk. Gives you the lethality rather than flat armor pen. The unique passive Night Stalker, after being unseen for at least 1 second, your next basic attack will deal 50 plus 2 per lethality true damage on hit. So, for example, you have the Edge of Night giving you 15, and a Dirk and whatnot. Where's the Dirk? I think it's 15 there. So the Dirk and an Edge of Night, you have 30 lethality there, so you get 2 per that, so you get 60 true damage plus the 50 base on hit, and it's at 1 second cooldown, but you have to be unseen. So if you stealth, like you use a Kha'Zix ult, or even if you just dip into a bush that's not warded, that counts as being unseen. You can refresh that. So kind of like a Sheen proc, but you actually have to actively do assassiny things like dip out of vision. Also, the unique passive Blackout, disable all nearby wards for 8 seconds after being spotted by 190-second cooldown. I don't know if this is working as intended. Originally, it gave you the old Raptor Smite, where if you got spotted by a ward, it gave you an Oracles, and then you could clear wards and stuff. This makes it sound like it just wants to disable them. When I was in game and I used this item, it just gave me the Oracles and let me clear the wards. It didn't disable them, so I'm wondering if that's a bug. So we'll have to see where that goes with that. Ghostblade is 300 cheaper on the combination. It gives you 20 lethality rather than 15 that all the other items give, so it gives you 5 more. Ghostblade used to be really strong before because all the other items that gave you flat armor pen will give you 10 and Ghostblade gave you 20, so it was double, but now it is not double. It's 5 more from the 15, so it's not nearly as big of a step up as it was before. It gives you the out of combat movement speed, and the active gives you 20% movement speed and ignores unit collision for 6 seconds, 45-second cooldown. So basically, it gives you the same amount of movement speed, same cooldown on it, but it ignores unit collision, so you won't get minion blocked or body blocked on there. So it kind of is just a mini ghost now. It doesn't give you the attack speed anymore, so champions that like the attack speed on it might not want it as much. It is nicer to get it for 300 gold cheaper though, but it's not the super armor pen item anymore either, so I haven't seen very many people building it, but I mean it's the first couple days of the patch. We'll see where it goes. Maw, since the other kind of Banshee's Veil AD item on command is now a magic resist armor pen item. Maw was the magic resist armor pen item. Now it's no longer that. It is the magic resist cooldown reduction item. Does the same thing that it did before, a little better. Gold price is unchanged. Doesn't give you armor pen anymore, but it gives you 10 CDR. And the unique passive life grip triggers, you gain 20 attack damage in addition to the 10 spell vamp and the 10 life steal. So it just gives you a better proc now. It's stronger for you. Plants are another interesting change in the jungle. This one is more about. I remember when I first read through it, I read through it a couple times and it was still confusing to me. The best way to do this, if you haven't, is just go onto the map and check it out. It's going to take a while to get used to knowing when to expect them to spawn. Knowing where they spawn will come faster, but their respawn times when you expect them to be back up and like their spawn order and stuff will take some getting used to. Basically, there's 3 different kinds of plants. You can kind of see here the green ones, the blue ones, and the red ones. That's all the areas that they spawn at. In each quadrant, there's you can see there's 2 of each in the quadrant, and then 3 of the green plants. Basically, the red ones is a blast cone. It has a radius. You attack the plant, or someone else attacks the plant. Anyone can attack it, and depending on where you're standing from beside it, you get blown backwards. It will shoot you over walls and whatnot. It does show you a range or an indicator where you're going to land based on where you're standing when it gets blown up, whether you attack it or someone else does. Kind of interesting, kind of trolly. I don't know how to feel about this one yet. It makes for some interesting plays, but it also makes for some you can like fuck up your teammates with it. You could blow it up while your teammates walking by and screw them up and stuff. So there can be a lot of catastrophe with it. The blue one is a Scryer's Bloom. Basically, you auto attack it from one side, and then it shoots a mist from the other side that grants vision of that area, as well as reveals wards, so you can go and kill them really quick if you're fast. And that you can see where they're positioned right at the entrance to the jungle, so you can either invading hit it to reveal their jungle and see where they are if there's wards in there, or the enemy can use it to shoot into the other jungle if they're invading, or they can use it to clear their own jungle of wards. So interesting stuff you can do with that. The last one is the, we'll go over here, is the honey fruit. It's in the river. It's a plant. You kill it. It drops 5 fruit, similar to the health packs on. They look like fruit. They don't look like health packs, but similar idea to the health packs on ARAM, that they heal you for either 3.5% of your max health or 8 plus 6 per level flat, whatever is higher out of those 2. So if you're a health stacker, obviously you want the max health. If you're not much health, you want the flat. Eating a fruit slows you by 35% for a quarter second, so it's noticeable. It's not the longest slow, obviously. There's spawn timers there and whatnot. Something weird about it. It doesn't mention it at all in here. It just says it heals you. It restores secondary resource as well. It will restore mana for mana users, but what I noticed today was on Renekton. I walked by and I picked up the fruit and I got Fury. It gave me Fury as Renekton. And one thing that you can use that for is you can get full Fury in lane, walk out of lane, and that'll start to taper off after you've been out of combat or haven't generated any Fury. Blow that thing up, take some fruit, and now you've refreshed your Fury timer. Doesn't say it in here. I'm wondering if that's another bug. There's a lot of things that I don't know if they just weren't overly explained in the patch notes or they're bugs, but that was something I definitely noticed to be kind of interesting. Smite, jungle camps no longer give you unique buffs for smiting them. However, Smite will now heal you for 100 plus 10% of your max health when used against monsters. 15 second longer on the cooldown. The ammo charge time starts at 140 rather than 125. So yeah, the buffs still exist, but you don't get any buffs for smiting camps. You just get health whenever you smite a monster. Hunter's Machete, damage on hit is up 25, lifesteal is up 2%. They apply to the upgrade as well. I think the upgrade was already 10% lifesteal anyway, to compensate for the fact that you don't have the damage buffs in the jungle anymore from Smite. Monster spawn and reward changes. This is another thing that'll make it easier if you just go in and, or the camp changes will be easier if you just go in and see. It was really weird for the first time for me seeing it. Small camp respawn rate is, instead of being 100 seconds, which is a little under 2 minutes, it is now 150 seconds, which is 2.5 minutes. Counter jungling seems like it would be more devastating now since you have to wait an extra 50 seconds for that camp to come back. Monster levels now fall in the 4 brackets depending on the average level of the character in game. So you can see where they are here. First clear gives about the same amount of golden experience. Taking Krugs gives more rewards across the game. Time slightly decreased. So this is the big thing. The wolves are basically unchanged other than you don't get smite buffs from it. The Gromp's basically unchanged. Little minor things. The Krugs now are like Russian dolls. You kill one and 2 smaller ones pop out of it. The big one, there's the big one and the small one. The small one transforms into two smaller ones when you kill it. The big one transforms into two of the medium ones that will both transform into two of the smaller ones. The big one is worth, I think, 70 gold, and all other kills are worth 10. So you kill a medium one, it's worth 10. Pops out two small ones, you kill both of those, they're both worth 10. It takes a lot longer to kill, but it gives you more experience. It gives you, I'm not sure the exact breakdown, but basically doing 3 camps used to get you level 3. Now you can kill red, and then you can kill Krugs and get level 3 off of that. So you can get level 3 excessively fast doing that. But it's a little bit out of your way. It gives you more gold. So it kind of weird. Raptors are kind of the same, except there's 2 more raptors. So now there's 5 mini ones rather than 3. And the health is cut in half from the big one. And the small one's health is increased. And then I guess the other changes. The blue and red buffs don't have small minions with them anymore. They have more health on their own. Blue takes more damage from magic attacks. Red takes more damage from physical attacks. Or damage, I should say. Rift Herald now spawns at 10 minutes. Its attack damage is lowered by 20. So a little bit easier to take and safer, but spawns later on. Elder Dragon no longer deals more damage to you based on how many elemental dragons you have. I honestly forgot that was even a thing on the other one. And the aspect of the dragon now lasts 30 seconds longer, so it's 2.5 minutes rather than 2. By the time you got to Elder Dragon, killed Elder Dragon, were able to get your whole team back to the base if you didn't have a Baron back timer, get everyone healed and get everyone on the same page. It's 2 minutes from the time the dragon dies. You have to get back to your base, do all of that, walk over to their base, the time that you have to spend walking there. By the time you were actually able to do something, other than if you were able to just take it and push from there, you'd already used up like half the buff. So it was always, like the enemy team would get it, you'd be like, all right, just wait it out, just don't fight them. And they would, teams that got the dragon, often I would find would lose, because they would be trying so hard to force a fight while they had the buff that they would force a fight that was just bad. 2 people would be back in base, 1 person would be doing a camp waiting for those people to get back, and the other 2 people would not even realize that all those, wow, my mic just went in my mouth, that all those people weren't there, and they would try to engage a fight, trying to use their buff, and realize that it was an outnumbered fight, and it's already too late. Melee minions, health growth over time is increased by 60% and no longer gain attack damage as the game progresses. Ranged minions, health growth over time decreased by 60% and they now gain attack damage as the game progresses. The inhibitor turret and Nexus turrets no longer fire lasers, they fire laser bullets like all the other turrets. I don't think they do any more damage or have a faster rate of fire, so I'm not actually sure. It just seems like your base is weaker now, but that's something I haven't been able to tell that much so far. Turret bullets deal a fixed percentage of minion max health, so regardless of the time in the game now, I guess it's going to be... you know what to expect. Melees will always take 2 hits, and then you last hit them. Range will always take 1, and then you last hit them, and then the siege and the super. Later on in the game before, like early on that would always apply, but later on in the game, melees would take like 3, even 4 hits. But now, even with the health changing on all the minions, the turret damage has been normalized to keep it easy, I guess. Plants have icon on the minimaps once you gain sight of them. Turret minimap icons will now change as well at 66 and 33%, so 2/3 and 1/3 health on the tower. The visual icon on the minimap will change to show you how damaged it is, so you can kind of make a quick assessment of what's going on just by looking at the minimap. And we're into the items here, so we're going to just try and go through this really quick. How far? We're getting there. There's no longer a magic resist aura item. They took all the magic resist auras out, which I think is smart because it was kind of like you had to build it as a support. If the enemy team had any magic damage, you had to build it. You didn't have an option not to build it because it helped everyone on your team. Aegis is now magic resist and armor. Just on an item. It gives you 30 MR, 30 armor for a cheap price, so it gives you both the things you need. Locket now builds out of the Aegis, and it gives you 60 MR, 30 armor, and all of the other passives are removed. It's just an item that has those stats raw, and it'll also give you the shield still. Grants a shield to nearby allies that absorbs damage, half effect if they've been affected by it. It no longer grants health. It no longer gives cooldown reduction. It's just heavy magic resist, a bit of armor, and the shield for you and your team. Banner builds out of Aegis, and a Glacial Shroud. So an item that actually builds out of the Glacial Shroud now that isn't the support Zeke's item. So it's a Glacial Shroud item that gives you 10%. Before you get a Glacial Shroud, and if you only wanted that 10%, you were going to be wasting it because you'd either build it into a Frozen Heart or an Iceborne unless you were getting a Zeke's in an odd situation as not a support character. Now this will do that, so it gives you magic resist, armor. So this one gives you less armor, or sorry, less magic resist, more armor. Gives you 400 mana, gives you 10% CDR, and then it still gives you that promote passive. So you can get armor, cooldown reduction, bit of magic resistance as well, actually, and still get that promote. So I think that certain champions will make use out of that, kind of like a Zrop Portal top lane. Forbidden Idol now is slightly cheaper with slightly less power on it. Unique passive on the Chalice and all Chalice items increases to base mana regen, now also increase base health regen by the same amount, rather than the old kind of confusing equilibrium type thing that no one really paid attention to anyway. This new item I think is really interesting. It's really cheap, 2100 gold. Forbidden Idol, Crystal Bracer, and gold gives you 400 health, which is a lot. Base health regen, base mana regen, 10% CDR, healed and shield power, 10%, unique passive. And the active on it, which can also be used while dead and up to 5,500 range, calls down, I guess, light on the area. It's a 2.5 second delay. It shows the area that it's getting called down on for both teams. 2.5 second delay. It heals all allies hit by that by 130 plus 20 per target's level. So at level 18, that's going to be healing for quite a lot. I think 510 per level 18 person. It also damages all enemy champions by 10% of their max health as true damage, and deals 250 true damage to enemy minions. So it's a way you can actually do stuff while you're dead. So that's kind of interesting. It doesn't say it does damage to monsters, so although it can kind of turn the tides like a Baron fight, it's not going to steal the Baron for you. Ardent Censer, bit of kind of mosh around with the stats. Less magic damage on hit, more attack speed, but those attacks will now restore 20 health as well. So it kind of is just like on hit lifesteal for the person attacking. The item itself is a little cheaper, and the shield and heal power is brought down to 10% from 15. Mikhail's heals and shield power is actually at 20% on it. Base mana regen is a little lower. The cost is 300 cheaper. Has the new Chalice passive and cleanses CC and slows on allied champion and grants them slow immunity. It grants them like immunity to slows, kind of like a Storm Raider's proc, but better. For 2 seconds, it's 120 second cooldown, and successfully cleansing an effect, like a CC effect, if you use it on someone who gets successfully cleansed, they'll also gain 40% movement speed for 2 seconds. I mean, you're not going to want to use it on someone who doesn't need a cleanse. It does not heal you anymore. However, there's no travel time to the active either. So I didn't even realize there was a travel time, really. It's kind of something you overlooked. But there's no travel time. It's instant. So you instantly Quicksilver your teammate and give them movement speed if you actually did it properly, and slow immunity. And now that it's shields and heal power to 20%, that's double what it was. This item's way too good now. It also is 300 less. I always forgot to use it. I built it a couple times on support, and I never ended up using it, so I stopped building it. Now I'm going to have to learn how to use it again whenever I get auto-filled, man. Feels bad. And Athene's new Chalice passive. It is a little cheaper, 150 gold cheaper, and yeah, it just has a new Chalice passive. Knight's Vow. This item's pretty insanity. You can see what it builds out of here. We're just going to kind of skip to go faster here. Basically, you choose a partner with it. If you're like a tanky support, you're probably choosing your AD. If your partner is nearby, you gain 15% movement speed while moving towards them, and 40% addition, or 40, not percent, just 40 flat additional armor. If you're nearby the person. So you can be like frontline, Alistar, engage the fight, and then everyone tries to kill you, and you're like, oh shit, and you run away. And you run your AD carry, and now you're getting 15% movement speed while running at them, and you're more tanky. God, I keep hitting my mic into my mouth. Sorry, guys. Heals for, if your partner's nearby, heals for 10% of the damage your partner deals to champions. So you heal for 12% of the damage that your AD carry does, if you chose them, and redirects 12% of the damage that they take from champions to you as true damage. So I'm not sure how that works. I'm assuming that's damage after mitigation, which isn't going to be much if you're using it on an AD carry, to be completely honest. Healing and damage redirection are reduced by 50% if you're a ranged champion. So if you're the ranged champion, I'm assuming that's for the person that buys this item. If you're ranged, it's 50% as effective for either of them. And champions can only be linked by one night vow at a time, because if that was the case, you could link more than one. It would start to be stacking broken. I think this item is going to be way too strong. Active now also shields you when cast on an ally, and also shields the nearest low health ally when cast on yourself, so you get 2 shields out of it. This item's kind of underwhelming in comparison with just not building it and getting the Sightstone support item. Not very many people would build Face the Mountain last bit of this season, so this is probably going to change that, maybe. We'll see. And cost changes and stat changes on a lot of the items here. You can kind of go back and look at these. The one that I'm looking at is Frozen Heart is 100 gold cheaper, which will be nice. Alistar got a bit of a mini rework here. Long story short, his E is no longer a heal. His new passive basically is his E, where every time a minion dies around him or he CCs a target, he gains a stack, 7 stacks. He'll automatically do a triumphant roar heal. You can't control it. You can't stop it from happening. Once it goes off, it heals you for a certain amount, and it heals the nearest allied champion for twice that amount. You cannot gain stacks towards your next heal for 3 seconds after the first one procs, which is annoying. If you didn't want the other one to proc, you can't hold on to it. It all instantly procs when an enemy, when an epic monster or enemy champion dies. So you can't gain stacks. So this is what I'm getting out of it. You can't gain stacks on it for 3 seconds after it procs, but if it's instantly procking, say you kill a champion, instantly procs. You're locked out of stacks for 3 seconds. Within 3 seconds, we say 1 second later another champion dies. It should instantly proc again because it's not reliant on stacks, but I don't know if that's for sure. That's just what I get out of it. Q no longer stuns a target for half a second after the knock-up ends, so it's not as much CC, but they added a new thing of CC to Alistar. E, which was his passive trample, is now on the E. Turn it on, it does damage every half second up to this amount for 5 seconds. Each trample pulse that hits at least one enemy champion grants Alistar a stack, capped at 5. So you have a chance to get 10 stacks. All you need to do is get 5. Once you get 5, there's a big animation on your character. I actually played Alistar top. Felt bad. Don't do it. But I wanted to get a feel for his new abilities. Your next basic attack against a champion deals 40 plus 10 per level. Not level of this skill, level of your character. Additional magic damage and stuns for 1 second. So you lost half a second AoE stun here to gain single target stun for 1 second. So for single target lockup, it's better. For AoE, it's not. That's the cooldown on it there. And Alistar's ult no longer gives you 60, 75, and 95 attack damage while active. It still does everything else, just doesn't give you that extra damage. So felt a lot weaker in the ult. You're not just kind of beating down everyone while being invincible. Twitch, his Q now camouflages instead of making him invisible. Since it's a weaker version of stealth, it is a longer time that you are camoed. Out of combat movement speed is 10%, but if you're within range of an enemy that can't see you, but near enough to them, you will gain 30% movement speed. So you'll have 10% more than you had. Other than that, you're going to have 10% less than you had. His W now only gives you 1 stack of the Venom, rather than 2, but the effect stays there and lingers, and if they stand in it, they'll be getting 1 stack per second. It lasts for 3 seconds, 1 initial stack, 3 seconds. You can get 4 stacks if they stay in it long enough, if they don't stay in it at all. I'm assuming it's going to insta-proc by getting hit by it, so you'll probably still get 2, and you can max get 4 from this. Probably the most important change of the entire patch from a nostalgic and just overall functional feel. Whoever thought it was an idea to change Twitch's ultimate to rat-ta-tat-tat Hope they got fired and now they can actually revert this change. Spray and pray is what his ultimate's name always has been to me and always will be to me, and I called it spray and pray all through this terrible time of Ratalat. So his ult has been restored to former glory. Splash art updates. Irvin, the Q, you no longer takes away some of the clunky feeling from me playing him, at least. I always was trying to choose it like a Lee Sin Q. You hit the Q and you want to take it instantly, and you're pressing Q to take it, but you can't because you actually have to auto them. But Irvin can now reactivate Root Color to take the dash portion of the ability in addition to issuing a basic attack. So it's kind of like Lee Syndrome. You hit it, you just press Q again rather than having to auto them. Daisy has more health at levels 2 and 3 and should generally be smarter with the AI. So some AI buffs was nice. Kled mounts twice as fast. Doesn't look like that much of a big deal when you say, oh, it's a half-second mount rather than a full second. But in comparison, twice as fast mounting. The W damage is now 6% of its target's max health at max level rather than 8%. Still the same early, so still the same for lane phase. Abyssal Scepter no longer has an aura that reduces magic resist of nearby enemies, but it does have an aura that nearby enemy champions take 10% magic damage. I'm assuming that aura will apply to your team, so if you buy this and you have someone else doing magic damage and they're doing damage to a champion that's being affected by this aura for yourself, I'm assuming they will do more magic damage to that champion as well. Keep in mind that since the Aegis no longer gives you that MR, is what they mention in here, reducing the MR by too much could be more devastating. So having the, you got to keep in mind a lot of champions don't have scaling MR. So if you don't have the Aegis on like an 80 carry and their base MR, say, I don't even know what it is, like between 30 and 40, say it's like 40, now it goes down to 20, that having the difference between having 40 MR and 20 MR is going to be a lot more damage than having nearby enemy champions take 10% more magic damage. And the trade-off is if someone has like 80 MR and they reduce it by 20 to 60, that's probably not going to be as impactful as just doing 10% more magic damage to them. Also, it's just a lot easier to look at. You do 10% more damage rather than math. What would you rather do, damage or math? Hextech's Revolver, the magic damage on it is down by 25 at early levels, well, all levels. Thank God. All you had to do on Kennen was walk into lane with a revolver with your auto charge to apply a mark. Throw that mark auto attack, which is pre-targeted, and then press W. There you did it. You got a Thunderlord's proc. All the damage from the auto, all the damage from the mark proc, all the damage from pressing W, all the damage from the gun. You have just half health to your opponent. Congratulations, you're the best Kennen player ever. Hextech's Proto Belt, damage per additional bolt is 20% rather than 30, and the ratio is down by 0.1. So it just does less damage in general as well for those stacked up bolts. So mastery changes here. I'll go over these really, really quickly. It's probably going to be easier for you guys to just go in and do it yourself. I'll go over like the ones that are more important. First basic attack against an enemy champion deals an additional 10 damage plus 1 per level on a 9-second cooldown. This is really nice. It's just extra damage for your first bit of poke or harass. Double-edged sword was moved to tier 4. It is now 5 damage increased and 2.5 damage taken rather than these ones which weren't as meaningful. All the damage increased masteries are all in the same. There's a new one. Bounty Hunter was buffed to be 1.5% damage per unique kill. So rather than being max bonus of 5, it's a max bonus of 7.5. So this one, the trade-off is you have it instantly, but you take more damage. This one is you don't have it instantly, but you can get extra 2.5% damage that'll stay permanently. And this one is the new one is you gain 5% increased damage over 5 seconds while in combat with enemy champions. So if you're a long sustained fighter, you probably want this one because you're always going to get it. You're not going to take increased damage for doing it. But that's a new one. And they removed Oppressor, the one that would just make the person take more damage when they were CC'd, or you would do more damage to a CC'd target. So I like the changes they did there. Fervor now it stacks up to 10 times rather than 8. The stacks only last 4 seconds rather than 6. And rather than doing on-hit physical damage, they now just grant 1 to 6 attack damage. So up to 60 attack damage whenever it's fully done scaling up. On certain champions, it seems worse. On certain champions, say Renekton, seems better. Got to keep in mind attack damage. If it scales with your items, scales with your abilities, it's just going to make everything else do more damage, more than just your auto attacks. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that you don't get fervor stacks for abilities anymore, and you need to get up to 10 rather than 8, and they last for 2 seconds shorter. So it's actually about actually staying in the fight for fervor rather than slowly ticking them up by hitting abilities to keep them going. You actually have to be doing auto attacks quite often to get it all the way up. Melee still get two stacks. Oh wait, sorry, 2 seconds cooldown for abilities. I didn't actually realize that. I was under the impression that they took the abilities away. Well, forgive me there. Melee will still get the 2 stacks at once rather than 1. You do get them from abilities, but you do need to get 2 more stacks total, and the stack duration is 2 seconds shorter. So it's going to be a struggle keeping those stacks durations up. That extra 2 seconds off is going to be the hard part to manage, I think. New interesting mastery here. Stepping into a bush causes your next damaging attack or ability to deal 3% of your target's current health as bonus magic damage. That doesn't only apply to champions. You can waste that on minions, so be careful. It will help you for jungling, though. Step into a bush and do 3% of the buff's health as bonus magic damage. Buff has, say, 2k health, or the jungle monster. You do an extra 60 damage for the first hit. Not that bad. And precision now shows that it does lethality rather than just flat armor pen. And here, Siegmeister helps you survive poke and live through dive attempts while sitting under tower. Be nice for champions that have a hard early lane phase that you're just farming under tower. It gives you 8 armor and magic resistance when near an allied turret. Also pretty good against poke comps. Situationally, take that. Fearless, gain 10% bonus armor and magic resistance, plus 2 flat armor and magic resistance per level, so up to 36 at level 18. 36 armor, 36 magic resistance for a tier 4 mastery, in addition to 10% bonus, 10% for your bonus armor and magic resistance when damaged by an enemy champion. And those buffs last for 2 seconds, and then they drop off. It's a 9-second cooldown. I was thinking of like some interesting cases where you could take this as like on a squishy champion that wants to dive into a fight, say like a Kali. You want to dive into a fight. You dive into the fight, you take damage from an enemy champion, you're level 18, you gain 36 armor, 36 magic resistance. You probably don't have that much bonus armor and magic resistance, but just the flat is really nice. Only lasts for 2 seconds, but that's kind of the window of your engage that you'll be taking damage. And then after it falls off, you might be able to heal it up, stealth, Zhonya's, get out, something. So there will be some interesting uses for that, I think. Strength of Ages was removed. Long story short. I'm just keeping the long story short. Courage of the Colossus. This is the new thing. Gain a shield for 7%, plus 7% for each additional nearby enemy champion of your maximum health for 4 seconds after hitting an enemy champion with hard crowd control, 30-second cooldown. I'm not sure the exact stuff on here. I'm pretty sure it's 7% for the one champion and then 7% for each additional one. There can only be 4 other additional ones because you've already hit the first one. So I'm assuming it's a 35% shield. Maybe it's a 42, but I think it's a 35 just based on the wording here. But stun, root, suppression, taunt, charm, fear, terrify, knock up, knock back count as hard crowd control. So if you're Vi and you Q into a fight, hard crowd control. Your Alistar, you flash Q, hard crowd control. Any of like the beefy tanks, Nautilus, Malphite, Scion, all of those obviously hard crowd control. Do it into a team fight. Let's go off the 35% example. 35% of your max health, you gain a shield for 4 seconds. So say you go into the fight, 4,000 health, you gain a shield for 1,400 health for 4 seconds. Yeah, silence. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. League client stuff. I'm not going to go through any of that. You get a thing if you did the thing. Scoreboard ordering. This was supposed to be out before. It wasn't. Now apparently it's coming out. What I always do in games, if you watch my stream, is I kind of organize the scoreboard just so it's easier to look at just from tabbing in and out really quick, not having to look to make sure like, oh, why is the AD carry on the top of the list? Top jungle mid, marksman, support is how I always organize it. Now it's just going to do that automatically for you, which will be really nice for organizational OCD purposes. I'm happy about that. There's a Victorious Maokai skin there, so there's that thing. Some ranked updates. I'm not going to go over here, but there's a lot more information on that, and a bunch of bug fixes here and upcoming skins and whatnot. A lot of the stuff I went over in this patch, I said I thought was kind of bugs, like the fruit giving back secondary resource like rage on Renekton, the what was another one? The Duskblade giving you an Oracle's proc rather than just blanking out wards. So I'm assuming that there's going to be a lot of those as bug fixes. Those are very obvious ones for the next patch. And as far as my understanding, I think there's one more patch after this one, which is basically probably going to be tidying up everything, rebalancing, fixing the bugs from this one. And then the patch after the next patch, so not 6.23, but 6.24 would be the patch that ranked 2007 season starts on, which I think is December 6th. So, yeah, everything's coming up really quickly here. I've been asked a lot lately if I'm doing an A to Z. It seems like there's a lot of interest in me doing another A to Z. I did one for the last 2 years. Seems to be kind of an annual thing now. So I decided I will do one, getting all set up for that. There's not much of a time window because I want to do it after ranked ended, after the preseason patch started, so we're not learning a bunch of stuff in the middle of it, but before the next ranked season starts. And last year or this year, I guess it was, season 6, the ranked season started just before February, like right at the end of January. So it's starting almost 2 months earlier this season. So I want to get the A to Z done and wrapped up if I do it by the time the season starts. So I'm looking at starting it pretty soon here. I'll probably be putting out an announcement of confirming that I will be doing it. I'm not 100% yet, but I'm pretty close. Confirming that I will be doing it if I am, and what the start date will be for that. So if you guys are interested, it'll just be on my Facebook or Twitter. As always, my social media links are in the description there, as well as my stream link. If you guys found this video or the first part of it or anything else on the YouTube channel helpful, or would like to see more, make sure to hit the sub button so you're notified when stuff goes live like this. Hit the like button. Let me know that you're enjoying what I'm doing, so I keep the same stuff and continue doing it. If I see people aren't liking it, obviously we'll change some stuff up. And yeah, other than that, another 40-minute video, fantastic. So props to you if you managed to sit through both of those. And until next time, guys, take it easy, and hopefully that helped. I'm gonna go drink some water. See ya.